Hello! As you all know, I'm Kathy, and welcome to Kathy's Corner! This week, we have a very interesting story about an aspiring actress, Gloria, and her husband, Robert. Let's bring out the happy couple! So Gloria and Robert, tell the folks at home a little bit about yourselves. What do you do?
Well, I'm looking to become a famous actress someday, but for now I'm a waitress.
And I'm a plumber. They aren't the most glamorous jobs, but they pay the bills, and they include insurance, which is nice.
How wonderful. I heard that you want to have a baby soon.
Yes, Robert and I love kids, but because we're still young, we're willing to wait a while.
And it's very important to us to look back at our family history, to look for any diseases that we could pass down to our children before starting a family. For example, one of my close family friends was diagnosed with Huntington's recently, and it has made me a little nervous. We don't know much about it, but that is just one thing that will be checked for.
He worries too much. I'm sure neither of us have Huntington's. I just go along with it to make him happy. Well, you're in luck. I have been inspired by their story, and I'm feeling generous, so I've invited a geneticist to come to the show and look at their family history. Please welcome Dr. Croswell. Dr. Croswell, thanks so much for coming to the show. I've also brought out the family doctor, Dr. Cushing. Welcome.
It's my pleasure, Kathy.
Glad to be here. So, Dr. Croswell, what can you tell us about Huntington's?
Well, it is a genetic disease, which means it's passed down in families. It also is dominant and affects 3 to 7 per 100,000 people of European descent, but is slightly less common in other populations. Huntington's is a neurological disease that breaks down the nervous system.
What is the cause of Huntington's?
It is caused by a defect on chromosome number 4, shown here.
Here in chromosome 4, part of the CAG repeats much more than the normal pattern in a healthy person's DNA.
Dr. Cushing, how do you know if one has Huntington's? Well, it is very sneaky. In most common cases of Huntington's, symptoms do not appear until the 30s or 40s. This makes the disease especially dangerous because most of the time the people will already have had kids without having suffering from the disease, which increases the chance of an affected person to pass the disease down onto the children. But once the symptoms begin to appear, the diagnosis is clear. Some of the symptoms include behavioral changes like hallucinations, moodiness, personality changes, paranoia, abnormal movements like jerking of the arms and legs, slow, uncontrolled movements, and wide walk, along with disorientation, memory or judgment loss, poor enunciation, and dementia. Some of those symptoms sound like some of the things my dad told me that my grandfather suffered from right before he died. That's weird.
Are you suggesting that Huntington runs in your family? How could you never mention that to me?
I didn't know until now. Well, things seem to be heating up here, so we're going to take a short break, but stay tuned. Welcome back, folks. So, during the break, we received some very important information regarding Gloria's father, Todd. Let's go backstage to see what happened.
Well, Robert, I spoke to Dr. Cushing, and it seems that after Gloria's grandfather died, it was concluded that he suffered from Huntington's. What does this mean? It means that Gloria's father, Todd, has a 50% chance of being affected by Huntington's and passing it on to Gloria.
Robert, my mother just called. My father's been diagnosed with Huntington's.
Oh my gosh, don't worry, Gloria, everything will be fine. What's the cure? I'm afraid there is no cure for Huntington's.
So, Dr. Croswell, what does this mean for Gloria's risk of having Huntington's and passing it down to her children?
Well, I have some pedigrees of Gloria's family right here.
Pedigree 1 was my first attempt. Here, Thomas Banks is shown with Huntington's by being colored in black. In this circumstance, his genotype is big A little a, but he did not pass the dominant allele down to any of his children. But because I know now that Todd has Huntington's, I have to consider that Thomas's genotype was big A, big A. However, as you can see by the indicated oval, his genotype was ruled out by looking at Todd's brother's genotype. He was tested negative for Huntington. I can now conclude Todd's genotype is big A, little a, because looking at the Punnett scores I have used, that is the only possibility for Todd's genotype, therefore giving Gloria a 50% chance of having Huntington's disease.
How do I get tested?
Well, we can take a blood sample and then look at your DNA. If we spot the abnormal repetition of CAG on chromosome 4, that means you have Huntington's. But I must warn you, as you can tell from what I have told you about Huntington's, it is a very harmful disease and has no cure. Do you still want to know, even if it means you'll be living in anticipation until the symptoms appear?
Absolutely. I can't go on not knowing this, and I need this vital piece of information to decide whether or not Robert and I should have kids. Well, folks, we have to take a break right now, but stay tuned. When we come back, we'll see if Gloria has Huntington's and how that will affect her decision to have kids or not. Welcome back to the most suspenseful episode of Kathy's Corner ever.
In this folder, I have the results from your DNA test.
Hello, I'm Gloria, and I have Huntington's. Because I talked to my geneticist about my chances of passing down Huntington's to my children, and found out that there was a 50% chance of doing so, me and Robert decided to adopt. Even though the symptoms have not started to affect me, I meet with a branch of the Huntington Society of America to help prepare for the effects that Huntington's will soon have on my life. Thank you.